Hello there, I'm Nathalia Melo, your Unfiltered Fit BFF, mom of two turned CEO of a fitness empire. Someone who understands the struggles of trying to stay fit, sane, and sexy, all while juggling work, life, and motherhood. And this is the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast. Follow along wherever you're listening and join me weekly as I help busy working moms just like you simplify their fitness journey so they can lose weight, regain their confidence, and feel sexy AF. It's time to stop living in the what ifs and hiding from the cameras. It's time to regain control over your body, feel sexy naked, and wear a bikini confidently. People already see you as a super confident woman, but it's time for you to feel the same way too. Let's go. Hello there, fam. Welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast. I'm Nathalia Melo, your host, and today I am going to start this episode with a quote that whenever I was prepping for the episode, I saw this quote and I'm like, I have to start with this. Absolutely do. And here's what the quote says. We cannot change what we are not aware of. And once we are aware, we cannot help but change. And that's a quote by Sheryl Sandberg. And if you're new around here, hi, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. You're the best. Love you. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a background so you can understand why I'm talking about what I'm talking about today. I have won the biggest bodybuilding competition in the world, the Olympia, and especially in more recent times, I have been very vocal about the things that I saw and that I experienced that I believe that are wrong. They're not healthy. They are not something that I can stand for now that I know better, that I have learned more. And I'm getting a lot of heat because I'm being vocal about it. And the truth is that the heat is coming from those who are invested in the industry from a financial standpoint, meaning contest prep coaches. Of course, they're going to be throwing a temper tantrum and freaking out and losing their mind because I'm lifting the hood and telling people what goes on under the hood. Oh, but you've been out of the game for a long time. Absolutely fair. But I'm still in contact and I'm still friends with a lot of people who are very much still in the sport. And my experience, my opinion, and my views on what I believe to be wrong in the bodybuilding industry, it truly comes without an agenda. In the sense that I don't coach competitors. I never have. I don't even to an extent, like talking about bodybuilding competitions nowadays because it is not so much who I am anymore. I am in a different season of life. But the reason why I still talk about it is because I believe that people who are getting into bodybuilding today need to make educated choices. And I remember a year or so in, I loved it. Loved competing. And whenever I signed up to compete, there was this perceived notion that competing was healthy. It was kind of like sold to you as a healthy lifestyle. It was sold to you as, you were the poster child of what health should be. That was the perception. People are looking up to me and being like, oh my God, you're just so healthy. Little did they know that I was smoking a pack of cigarettes a day to manage my hunger. But that's a story for another day. I'll get back to that. And whenever it came to prep, I'll do interviews and people would be like, so how do you feel? I'm like, I feel like shit, man. And like the coaches would lose their mind because apparently you are not supposed to tell how you truly feel. You need to pretend that everything is good. Oh, I feel amazing. But I had a problem with that. And the reason I had a problem with that is because I would do appearances, doing signings for supplement companies, clothing companies that I worked with at the time. And then I would have these ladies come and talk to me and tell me that they were feeling like absolute shit during their preps and that they thought that something was wrong with them because they didn't see a lot of pros talk about how they truly felt. So all these women were thinking that something was wrong with them because there were very few people who were willing to go against the grain and everything's fine. Oh my God, I feel amazing today, and speak the truth. And the truth was everybody felt like shit, but we're not allowed to say it because if you did, you'd be criticized. And that hasn't changed up until now because the reason why more people who have since stepped away from competing don't speak up about how problematic a lot of the methodologies used in the bodybuilding industry, like people don't speak up about how problematic they are because they don't want to deal with the pushback. They don't want to deal with the criticism. They don't want to deal with but it was your choice. You decided to compete. It's your choice. Agreed. 100% agreed. 1000% agree. It was my choice. Everybody who stepped on the stage was there because of their choice. But here's the difference. And here, this part right here is why I am so incredibly passionate about talking about what happened to me and with many people that I know who competed at a high level. I'm not talking about small shows. And it's not like taking it away from those who have competed at smaller shows because getting ready for a competition, it's hard regardless. It is challenging. But the reason I am so passionate about is speaking the truth, not just my truth, but is speaking the truth, is because whenever I decided to compete, we're going back, long time ago. I did my first show in 2009. You do the math. Is that there was a blanket on top of what competing really was because we didn't have social media and because it was very much frowned upon for a competitor who was competing at a high level to speak about how they truly felt. So it was sold to you as you're going to be the poster child of health and fitness because it is so healthy, because that's the best thing that you're going to do to your body. And I was robbed, like many other women who decided to compete at that time. And still to this day, which that's where I'm going to get in a little bit, we were robbed from being able to make an educated choice. Yes, I made a choice, but I made a choice based on very limited information available that was filtered. Because those who wanted to truly speak up about how they felt and what was wrong and what was going on under the hood were frowned upon for speaking the truth. And again, we didn't have, like at the time, you probably at best had a forum on bodybuilding.com or something like that, which you'd be absolutely scrutinized if you said something about how you felt and how problematic it was. And here's the thing. Maybe I probably would have made the same choice that I did. I probably would have made the choice to compete. Maybe having all the information wouldn't have changed my mind, which is okay. But having all the information in the pros and cons would have allowed me the autonomy to make an educated decision. And that right there is where I have a problem. Part one. I also have a problem with, yes, it was my choice. 100%. It was also my choice to hire the coaches that I did. And I don't know, man, but whenever you hire a professional, you hire a professional with the expectations that they are going to give you a professional service. But whenever the information is being kept away because it's not good for the image of the sport, or because the same, quote, professional, end quote, coaches want to keep that information away because it's not good for their business, because they're fucking people up, I am again being robbed of a educated choice, of an educated decision. So it's not that you would have changed my decision. Maybe you wouldn't, maybe you would. I don't know. This is 40 years old Nathalia talking about what the decision of, 24, 23-year-old Nathalia would have made. And I cannot answer that. But my goal with the fact that I'm being so outspoken about what happened to me and to many other competitors, because just on this podcast here, if you go to my interview with Diana Dahlgren, top 3 Olympia competitor, you're going to hear what she has to say. Not much different from my experience. If you hear from Felicia Romero, also another episode of the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast, I'm going to quote it down below. Same experience. Allie Lewis, at the time, she was not married to Flex Lewis yet. Ali Rosen also competed. And she saw how fucked things were then. And we were all robbed of making an educated decision because of the status quo of the industry. And that is a problem. Because if you have absolutely nothing to hide, if you have full conscious that what you're doing is not absolute fucked, why is it that all these contest prep coaches now are throwing a temper tantrum that I am speaking about what happens in the bodybuilding industry? If what you're doing is not wrong, why does it bother you? But it's hard. Here's the problem. Every time that I post something about my experience competing and how wrong a lot of the things that I was, and maybe has changed, but from what I have seen, not much has, a little bit maybe, but not much has. Because a lot of the same coaches that were the big name coaches when I was competing are still the same coaches. They're the big names now. And unless somebody comes up and starts to talk about it, nothing is going to change. And every time that I make posts and I talk about my experience, which for the record, I am entitled to do. And I feel that is my moral obligation to do so. Because if I were somebody who just competed in a small local show, nothing wrong. I already made it very clear. It doesn't make it less hard, okay? But if I were somebody who competed at a small show, people would be like, the fuck do you know? You just competed at that Joe Schmo show. Like, maybe you had a bad coach. No, I won the biggest bodybuilding competition that there is to be won. There is nothing above that. And if I don't have the balls to come out and speak up about what is wrong and allow people to make educated decisions about their long-term health, I am part of the problem. It is my moral responsibility to speak up about what is wrong. If it hurts people's feelings, then be it. But I am not going to keep quiet and not speak because I'm concerned about pushback when people's not only health, but actual lives are at risk, because the ones who are willing to speak up keep on getting pushback. And the funny thing is that the pushback oftentimes comes from people who are still in the industry. And it normally goes like this whenever I'm making a post about my experience. Oh my God, but you don't know because it's so healthy now. And you click on the profile and it's always people who are still very active in the sport. And the truth is that, being delulu about what you perceive as healthy, you become a product of your environment. We all know that. And delulu is not the solulu, but for a lot of these people, they are so delulu, and it's kind of like their level of delulu is a bit like bad breath. Everybody knows that you have it, but you. It's kind of like being inside an industry. That's like that for everybody. It's like whenever you are in a shitty relationship, you only realize that the relationship was shitty whenever you're out of it and you look back and you're like, oh my goodness, how the hell did I put up with that? So it's very hard for somebody who is still actively inside the industry to appreciate that walking around with 3 ounces of tilapia in a Ziploc bag and 4 asparagus pear and binging every single weekend and justifying that as oh bro, it was just a cheat meal, that's not normal. That's not normal behavior. But it's very hard for somebody whenever they are in it to realize that what they are doing is problematic. And oftentimes people will say, oh, but other sports do it. Very good point. Yes. But the funny thing is that the reason why I realized that something was wrong with the way that I was doing it, the way the bodybuilding industry is, not just for me, but for many people that I know, and many people to this day, was when I met my husband, who also happened to be a high-level professional athlete. My husband played professional rugby, as you guys might know. If not, I'm telling you, Roger played professional rugby for 15 years of his life. He played for what's called the Barbarians. So Roger, he was playing at a high level. He wasn't like Mickey Mouse backyard kind of games. The man played professionally for 15 years in a contact high performance sport that the preseason, it starts in the end of July, beginning of August. And depending on how far you get into the tournaments, you can still be playing like towards the end of May. So technically speaking, they only have June and half of July off. So it's a demanding sport. And I realized that my husband had a, quote, normal life whenever he wasn't training. That he trained, then he went home and he was allowed to switch off. He could have, a beer here and there, obviously not before a game, but he could. And whenever I start to watch not only him, but all of his friends, including some that were, captain for the Irish national team, having a normal life. And here's the kicker, getting paid. Because I don't know if you know, you're not paid to be a competitor. So whatever shit happens to you whenever you're doing the extremes of competing, it's going to be on your dime. In the time that you're taking to train, even if you are a professional, it's not going to be paid. It's not going to be guaranteed income unless you have a sponsor. And sponsors are not guaranteed. So being a pro doesn't guarantee a pay. And that's when I start to realize that something was wrong. Something wasn't adding up. We had events that my husband and all his friends, who also were professional athletes, could go and eat. And I was freaking out about having an extra leaf of lettuce. That wasn't normal. I've had friends who were UFC fighters, and unless they were, getting very close to a fight, there wasn't that level of craziness that the bodybuilding industry has. And they were also getting paid to train, which bodybuilders are not. So we can sit here and pretend everything is good, everything is great. But from what I experienced and what I saw, it was not. But I'm only able to look at it and see how problematic it was with much more clear vision now. Not only for my own personal experience, but also because now as a coach, every time that I speak with a woman that has competed and I see her absolutely falling apart because all she knows is the extremes that were sold to her as healthy, and she's stuck on that cycle day in and day out, juggling a career, juggling kids, and thinking that because they cannot do 3 hours of cardio and eat nothing but lettuce and fucking ice cubes, that they are the problem, that they are not healthy enough, that they are not good enough. Because those extremes were sold to them and to me as healthy. It enrages me, and it pushes me to do what is morally correct, which is to speak not only my truth, but the truth about everything that is wrong. Whenever I speak with a woman that breaks down crying, saying that she canceled a vacation with her family because she doesn't think that she looks good enough to be in a bikini to go on a vacation with her kids, because they have severe body dysmorphia from all the extremes that they did when they were competing. It absolutely breaks my heart when I speak with women today that competed, that cry to me, wishing they had never done it because they didn't know that they were going to develop the extreme disordered eating behaviors that they have. And that now those eating behaviors are manifesting on their children. And they don't know how to make it stop. It gives me fuel to keep on speaking up whenever I speak with a woman who is teetering on diabetes or heart conditions or severely obese, that at some point in life, they had a six-pack and were fit as hell competing, but now they don't even know if they're going to make it the next day because everything that they know how to do is to do more. Like the bodybuilding industry coached them. Oh, you're not losing weight? Let's add more cardio. Oh, you're not losing weight fast enough? Okay, let's reduce the calories even more. And they keep it stuck on that cycle. Or the other lady who I spoke to who hadn't set a foot in the gym for years, 3 years to be exact, because she had what she described, again, I am not a mental health expert, but PTSD from being in the gym. Because whenever she was prepping for shows, she was being required to do 2-3 hours of cardio. And it was being sold to her as something that was healthy. And maybe you are a contest prep coach who doesn't prescribe 3 hours of cardio. But just because you don't prescribe 3 hours of cardio, it doesn't mean that what you're doing is fucking healthy. And if people like me who have a voice, who have the experience, and who have the status to speak up about what is wrong, if I don't do it, who will? Because if people are trying to silence me from speaking, what have they done with all the other people who have not won the Olympia that have tried to speak up and have been brushed under the carpet or silenced because they didn't have the pedigree or whatever the fuck you want to call to talk about? But what do you know? Well, I know, and I can speak about it. So no, I'm not going to stop talking about how problematic it is. I am not going to stop talking about my experience. And I quite honestly do not give a fuck about contest prep coaches who are absolutely losing their minds because I am telling the truth. Not just my truth, the truth. It is my moral responsibility as somebody who can to allow people to make educated choices. Choices that I too made. But the difference is that I didn't have the option to make an educated one. Because the education piece, the knowledge piece, the con piece was kept away from me. Because everybody who tried to speak up got criticized, got silenced. And they quite honestly couldn't be bothered clapping back. But I will. And technically speaking, I don't have to do it because from like a business standpoint, I don't work with competitors. But I believe that we're put in this earth for a reason. And the experiences, the voices, the experiences that we have, the voice that we're given, the platforms that we're given are given to us for a reason. And I would not be doing my job if I didn't speak up. Because I can tell you one thing right now, and that's one thing that I tell everybody. Oh my God, you're so rude, you're a bitch. If having an opinion makes me a bitch, be it. But I'm an honest bitch. Because I came here with absolutely nothing to my name. And my name is the only thing that I have. And I'll make sure that everything that I'm doing today and to the many days to come is ethical, is correct, and it is something that I would be proud to tell my kids that I did, that I do, and that I would do. Because it's aligned with the things that I teach them to be and become, which is honest and respectful. It is the right thing to do. And as a mother, if my daughter were getting into some kind of activity or sport, and someone had gone before her and knew that something was wrong and could be changed and didn't speak up about it, I'll be pissed. So this is me as an individual who believes that change is possible and that change can only happen when people are allowed to make educated choices, and also as a mother. Because I see a lot of young girls getting into the sport thinking that they're getting in it because it is, quote, healthy, end quote. And by the time they realize that shit's fucked, it's too late. Because everything is far too normalized. And that's it, guys. That's my conversation with you guys for today. And like I said, bodybuilding, competing is not part of my life anymore. It's not really my scene. But I believe that it is important to be vocal and to speak about what is wrong. And that is not to deter people from doing what they want to do, but to give them the tools and the knowledge and the education to be able to make a decision, an informed decision, which is something that I feel like I was robbed of because there was no information. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure that you leave a review. That's your way to pay us, and share this episode with your friends if you think that it's valuable. If you're not a competitor, never will, great. We have plenty of other episodes that possibly be more relevant to you. But if not, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you guys next week. Adios. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. But let me ask you, what was your aha moment in today's episode? I would love to know. You can leave me a comment or voice message at the link in the show description. You can also follow me on Instagram and let me know what topics you want to hear more about or who I should have on the show. As for today, This is it for today, guys. I'll see you back next week for another episode of the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast.